I didn't change my diet. I didn't join a gym. I didn't buy expensive supplements. I didn't follow a complicated fitness plan. The only thing I did was walk, just 30 minutes every day. At first, it sounded almost too simple. How could something so basic possibly change anything? After all, social media constantly tells us that we need intense workouts, complicated exercise programs, and expensive fitness routines to get healthy. But what if that's not true? What if one of the most powerful health tools has been available to us all along? A tool that's free, accessible, and available almost anywhere. What happened over the next few weeks surprised me. My energy changed, my mood changed, my sleep changed, even my thinking changed. And perhaps most importantly, I discovered that some of the biggest health transformations don't come from dramatic actions. They come from small habits repeated consistently. This is the story of what happened when I walked for 30 minutes every day. And if you're thinking about starting a walking habit yourself, the science behind these results may surprise you even more than my personal experience did. The decision. Like many people, I spent far too much time sitting, working, scrolling, watching videos, driving. Modern life makes inactivity incredibly easy. Entire days can pass without significant movement. And while that might seem normal, the human body was never designed for it. For thousands of years, movement was a natural part of daily life. People walked to gather food, walked to visit neighbors, walked to work, walked because survival required it. Today, many of us can go from our bed to our desk to our couch without moving very much at all. The problem is that our bodies haven't evolved as quickly as our lifestyles have. Our muscles still expect movement. Our hearts still benefit from activity. Our brains still function better when the body moves. Yet many people underestimate walking because it seems too simple. We tend to believe that if something isn't difficult, it can't be effective. But science often tells a different story. So I decided to conduct a simple experiment, 30 minutes, every day. No excuses, no complicated rules, just walking. Week 1. The first surprise. The first few days weren't dramatic. There were no movie-style transformations, no overnight miracles. In fact, the first thing I noticed was how out of shape I'd become. Not in an obvious way. I wasn't gasping for air. I wasn't collapsing from exhaustion. But I could feel how disconnected my body had become from regular movement. Muscles felt stiff. My posture wasn't great. And I realized how much time I normally spent sitting. Yet something interesting happened. By the 4th or 5th day, I began looking forward to the walk. Not because it was exciting, because it felt good. The human body responds positively to movement almost immediately. When you walk, your muscles begin contracting rhythmically. Blood circulation improves. Oxygen delivery increases. The heart becomes slightly more active, and the brain receives signals that movement is occurring. This triggers the release of chemicals that can improve mood and reduce stress. Many people think exercise only affects the body, but the brain often benefits first. By the end of the first week, I noticed that my mind felt clearer. I wasn't necessarily smarter, but I felt less mentally cluttered, less overwhelmed, and more focused. Researchers have repeatedly found that walking can improve cognitive function, concentration, and mental well-being. Even relatively short walks appear capable of producing measurable effects, which leads to one of the most underestimated benefits of walking: stress reduction. What happened to my stress levels? Modern stress is different from the stress our ancestors experienced. Thousands of years ago, stress was usually temporary. A threat appeared. The body responded, the threat disappeared, recovery began. Today, stress often never fully leaves. Emails, deadlines, financial concerns, notifications, social media, news headlines. The brain remains constantly stimulated. Many people spend years living in a state of low-level chronic stress. The problem is that chronic stress affects almost every system in the body: sleep, blood pressure, digestion, energy, immune function, mental health. Everything becomes connected. Walking creates something rare in modern life: a pause, 30 minutes away from screens, 30 minutes away from constant stimulation, 30 minutes where the mind can breathe. During my daily walks, I found myself thinking more clearly. Problems seemed smaller, decisions felt easier, and worries that seemed overwhelming indoors often felt manageable outdoors. This isn't just personal experience. Numerous studies have shown that walking can reduce stress hormones and improve emotional well-being. Nature appears to amplify these benefits even further. Trees, sunlight, fresh air, natural environments. The brain responds positively to these settings in ways researchers are still working to fully understand. But the benefits didn't stop there. Something else started changing. My energy. The energy paradox. This may sound strange. Walking uses energy, yet somehow it gave me more energy. At first, this seems contradictory. Shouldn't physical activity make you more tired? In the short term, yes. But over time, regular movement actually improves energy production. The body becomes more efficient, the cardiovascular system becomes stronger, oxygen delivery improves, muscles adapt, and daily activities begin requiring less effort. Many people believe they need more rest when they feel tired. Sometimes that's true, but sometimes the body needs movement. One of the biggest surprises during my walking experiment was how much more alert I felt during the day. Afternoon energy crashes became less intense. I felt more productive, more motivated, and less likely to experience that sluggish feeling that often follows long periods of sitting. Researchers frequently observe similar patterns. People who engage in regular physical activity often report higher energy levels than sedentary individuals. The body appears to reward movement with increased vitality, which brings us to another major change. Sleep. The sleep transformation. I didn't expect walking to affect my sleep very much, but within a couple of weeks, the difference became impossible to ignore. I fell asleep faster. I slept more deeply, and I woke up feeling more refreshed. This makes sense when you understand how movement affects the body. Physical activity helps regulate circadian rhythms, the body's internal clock. It also helps reduce stress, burn excess energy, and improve overall recovery processes. Millions of people struggle with poor sleep. They search for supplements, special mattresses, complex sleep hacks. Yet one of the most effective solutions may be something much simpler. Daily movement. Quality sleep is one of the most important predictors of long-term health. During sleep, the body repairs tissue, supports immune function, processes memories, balances hormones, and performs countless maintenance tasks. Improved sleep doesn't just help you feel better, it helps virtually every system in the body function more effectively. And as my sleep improved, something unexpected happened. My cravings began changing. The craving effect. One of the strangest things about walking was that it slowly influenced my eating habits, not because I forced myself to eat differently, because I wanted to. Week 3. Something started changing by the third week. Walking no longer felt like a challenge. It had become automatic, and that's when the biggest shift happened. I stopped thinking about the walk itself. Instead, I started noticing what the walk was doing to the rest of my life. My body felt lighter. Not dramatically lighter, but different. Stairs felt easier. Getting out of bed felt easier. Even carrying groceries seemed less exhausting. For years, many of us assume feeling tired is normal. We blame age, work, stress, life. But sometimes the body is simply asking for movement. The human body is incredibly adaptive. When you give it a challenge consistently, it begins preparing itself to handle that challenge more efficiently. Every walk was teaching my heart to work better, teaching my lungs to become more efficient, teaching my muscles to use oxygen more effectively. The improvements weren't dramatic enough to notice from one day to the next. But compared to where I started, the difference was becoming obvious. And then something happened that I wasn't expecting at all. My mood changed. My mood improved more than my body. Most people start exercising because they want physical results. Weight loss, muscle tone, better fitness, but one of the most powerful changes often happens in the brain. By week 3, I felt calmer, not because my problems disappeared, because my response to them changed. Things that normally irritated me felt less overwhelming. Stressful situations felt easier to handle. I found myself becoming more patient, more positive, more optimistic. Scientists have spent years studying the connection between movement and mental health, and the results are remarkable. Walking stimulates the release of chemicals associated with well-being, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin. These aren't magic substances. They're part of the body's natural system for regulating mood and motivation. The result is often described as feeling better. But that phrase doesn't fully capture it. It's more like feeling balanced. Clearer, more present, more connected. Many people search for happiness in complicated places. Yet something as simple as a daily walk can create meaningful changes in emotional well-being. And that's something far too many people overlook. What happened to my weight? Let's talk about the question everyone asks. Did I lose weight? The answer is yes, but probably not in the way most people imagine. Social media often creates unrealistic expectations. People expect dramatic transformations, massive weight loss, instant results. Reality is usually slower. And that's actually a good thing. Healthy, sustainable changes often happen gradually. By the third week, I noticed subtle differences. My clothes fit slightly differently. My waist felt smaller. My face looked less puffy. The scale moved, but not dramatically. What mattered more was how I felt. Walking burns calories, but the real magic goes beyond calorie burning. Regular movement helps improve insulin sensitivity, supports metabolism, encourages healthier habits, reduces stress-related eating, improves sleep, and all of these factors influence body composition. Many people focus only on the number on the scale, but health is much bigger than weight. The goal isn't simply becoming lighter, the goal is becoming healthier, stronger, more capable, more energetic, and that's exactly what was happening. My heart was quietly getting stronger. One of the most fascinating things about walking is that many of its biggest benefits are invisible. You can't see your cardiovascular system improving. You can't watch your blood vessels becoming healthier. You can't feel every positive change happening inside your body, but they're happening. Every single day, your heart is a muscle, and like any muscle, it responds to training. Walking challenges the heart in a gentle but effective way. The heart pumps more blood, circulation improves, the cardiovascular system becomes more efficient. Over time, this can contribute to healthier blood pressure, improved cholesterol profiles, better overall heart health. Heart disease remains one of the leading causes of death worldwide, yet one of the simplest tools for reducing risk requires no gym membership, no expensive equipment, no special skills, just walking, 30 minutes, one step after another, and perhaps that's what makes walking so powerful. It's accessible. Almost anyone can start. The brain benefits, nobody talks about. Most people think walking affects the legs, maybe the heart, maybe weight loss. But researchers have discovered something incredible. Walking affects the brain. In fact, some studies suggest regular walking may improve memory, attention, and cognitive function. Think about that. A simple walk may help your brain perform better. When you walk, blood flow to the brain increases, oxygen delivery improves, various growth factors become more active. The brain essentially receives support for maintenance and adaptation. During my experiment, I noticed something interesting. Ideas came more easily during walks. Problems seemed easier to solve. Creative thinking improved. Some of my best thoughts happened while moving, not while sitting at a desk, not while staring at a screen, but while walking. This phenomenon is surprisingly common. Writers, scientists, entrepreneurs, inventors, many have reported experiencing breakthroughs during walks. The body moves, the mind follows, and sometimes the best solutions appear when you're not actively searching for them. The surprising impact on longevity. By week 4, I started researching something fascinating. Longevity, the science of living longer, and one finding appeared again and again. People who move regularly tend to live longer, not necessarily people who train like professional athletes, not necessarily people who spend hours in the gym, people who simply remain active. Many of the world's longest living populations walk regularly. Movement is woven into daily life, not treated as punishment, not viewed as a chore, just a normal part of living. Researchers consistently find associations between regular physical activity and lower risks of heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, cognitive decline, and premature death. Think about that for a moment. One habit, 30 minutes a day, potentially influencing some of the biggest health challenges humans face. That's extraordinary, and yet many people ignore it because it seems too simple. We often underestimate simple things, especially when they're powerful. The biggest lesson I learned, the most important lesson wasn't about fitness, it wasn't about weight loss, it wasn't even about health, it was about consistency. Most people fail because they aim for perfection. They create impossible plans, extreme diets, extreme workouts, extreme expectations. Then life happens, motivation fades, and everything stops. Walking taught me a different lesson. Small actions matter, tiny improvements matter, consistency matters. You don't need to transform your entire life overnight. You only need to improve slightly, then repeat, again and again and again. Over time, those small improvements compound, just like money compounds in an investment account. Health compounds too. One walk doesn't change your life. 1,000 walks might. What happened after 30 days? At the end of 30 days, I wasn't a different person. I didn't suddenly become a fitness model. I didn't achieve some miraculous transformation. But I was healthier, stronger, more energetic, more focused, more optimistic. I slept better, moved better, thought more clearly, and perhaps most importantly, I proved something to myself. Positive change doesn't have to be complicated. The fitness industry often profits by making health seem difficult, as if you need expensive equipment, complicated plans, perfect nutrition, advanced strategies. But sometimes the most effective solution is also the simplest. Walking one foot in front of the other, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. The results may not appear overnight, but they arrive, and when they do, they can be life-changing. Powerful final message. Imagine two versions of yourself. One continues living exactly the same way, year after year. The other commits to just 30 minutes of walking each day. Nothing extreme, nothing complicated, just walking. Now imagine both versions 10 years from now. Which one has more energy? Which one sleeps better? Which one feels stronger? Which one enjoys better health? Which one has a better chance of staying active and independent? The answer is obvious. The challenge is taking the first step. Because every healthy life begins the same way. Not with perfection, not with motivation, not with some magical secret, with a decision, a simple decision to start. And maybe that's the real lesson. The distance between where you are and where you want to be isn't crossed in one giant leap. It's crossed one step at a time, literally. So if you've been waiting for the perfect moment to improve your health, this might be it. Put on your shoes, step outside, and start walking. Your future self will be grateful you did. The changes I never expected. When I started this challenge, I expected physical changes, maybe better fitness, maybe a little weight loss, maybe slightly more energy. What I didn't expect were the changes I couldn't see, the changes happening beneath the surface, the changes that may matter most in the long run, because health isn't only about how you look, it's about how your body functions, how your heart performs, how your brain ages, how much energy you have when you're 60, 70, or 80 years old. Many of the greatest benefits of walking happen quietly. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly notice them. They accumulate slowly, day after day, week after week, month after month, until one day you realize you're living differently, feeling differently, thinking differently. And that realization changed everything for me. What walking does to your blood vessels. Most people never think about their blood vessels, yet they form one of the most important systems in the human body. Imagine thousands of miles of highways carrying oxygen and nutrients to every organ, every muscle, every cell. That's your circulatory system. When you walk, blood flow increases. The heart pumps more efficiently. Blood vessels become more flexible. Circulation improves. This matters because poor circulation is linked to many serious health problems: heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, and numerous age-related conditions. Researchers have found that regular walking helps support healthy blood vessel function. Think of it as maintenance for the body's transportation system. The better traffic flows, the better everything works. And when circulation improves, almost every part of the body benefits. The immune system effect. Something else happened during the challenge. I noticed I simply felt healthier. Not dramatically healthier, just stronger, more resilient, less run down. Scientists have long known that moderate physical activity supports immune function. Walking appears to help immune cells circulate more effectively throughout the body. These cells act like security guards. They're constantly searching for threats, viruses, bacteria, abnormal cells. When circulation improves, those cells can perform their jobs more efficiently. This doesn't mean walking makes you invincible, but it may help the body respond more effectively to everyday challenges. And over years, those small advantages can become meaningful. Why walking is better than most people think. Many people dismiss walking because it isn't flashy. Nobody posts viral videos about taking a walk. Nobody brags about walking the same way they brag about intense workouts. Walking seems ordinary, and that's exactly why people underestimate it. But ordinary doesn't mean ineffective. In fact, the opposite is often true. The best health habits are usually boring, simple, repeatable, sustainable. Anyone can follow an extreme workout for 3 days. Very few people can maintain it for 10 years. Walking is different. You can walk when you're busy. You can walk when you're traveling. You can walk when you're stressed. You can walk when you're older. You can walk almost anywhere. And because it's sustainable, it often produces more long-term results than complicated fitness plans. The secret isn't intensity. The secret is consistency. The Blue Zone Connection. While researching walking, I became fascinated by communities known as Blue Zones. These are regions where people consistently live longer than average. Many residents reach 90 or even 100 years old. Researchers spent years trying to understand why. The answer wasn't a miracle supplement. It wasn't a secret workout. It wasn't some hidden medical breakthrough. Instead, they found something surprisingly simple. These people move naturally every day. They walk, garden, climb hills, remain physically active. Movement isn't an event. It's part of life. And perhaps that's the lesson modern society needs most. Health isn't something you do for 1 hour in a gym. Health is something you build throughout the day. One step at a time. The mental battle most people face. Here's the truth. The hardest part of walking wasn't physical. It was mental. Some days I didn't feel like doing it. Some days I was tired, busy, distracted, unmotivated, and that's where most people quit. Not because they can't do the activity, because they don't feel like doing it. The problem is that feelings change constantly. Motivation comes and goes. Energy rises and falls. Life gets messy. That's why successful habits aren't built on motivation. They're built on commitment. There were days when I walked because I wanted to, and days when I walked because I said I would. The second type of day mattered more. Because long-term success doesn't come from doing things when they're easy. It comes from doing them when they're inconvenient. What happens after 1 year? Now let's imagine something. What if you didn't stop after 30 days? What if you continued for a year? 30 minutes every day. That's over 180 hours of walking. Thousands upon thousands of steps. Hundreds of miles traveled. Think about the cumulative effect. Improved cardiovascular fitness, better metabolic health, lower stress levels, improved sleep, more energy, potential weight management benefits, stronger muscles, better endurance, and perhaps most importantly, a completely different relationship with movement. Because after enough repetition, walking stops feeling like exercise. It simply becomes part of who you are. And that's when lasting transformation happens. The biggest mistake people make. Many people wait for a health scare before taking action. A diagnosis, a warning from a doctor, a frightening symptom. Only then do they decide to change. But prevention is always easier than repair. The body sends signals long before disease appears. Fatigue, poor sleep, low energy, weight gain, stress, brain fog. These aren't always random problems. Sometimes they're messages. Messages telling us that something needs attention. Walking isn't a cure for everything, but it addresses many of the root causes behind modern health struggles. Inactivity, stress, poor circulation, low energy, and because it addresses multiple issues simultaneously, the benefits often spread into every area of life. The future version of you, close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself 10 years from now. What do you see? Do you see someone energetic, strong, active, independent, able to enjoy life fully? Or do you see someone wishing they had started sooner? Because every day you're becoming one of those people. The future version of you is being created right now. Not next month, not next year, today. With every choice, every habit, every decision. And while 30 minutes may seem small, remember this. Most extraordinary results begin with ordinary actions repeated consistently. A tree doesn't become massive overnight. A building isn't constructed in one day. A healthy life isn't built in a single week. Everything grows gradually, including your future. Final emotional outro. When I started walking 30 minutes every day, I thought I was improving my fitness. What I discovered was something much bigger. I wasn't just changing my body, I was changing my future. Every walk became an investment in my heart, my brain, my energy, my happiness, my longevity. And perhaps the most beautiful part is that anyone can begin. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to be young. You don't need to be athletic. You only need to start, one step then another, then another. Because the journey toward better health isn't won through giant leaps. It's won through small daily actions repeated over time. Years from now, you'll either be grateful that you started today or wish that you had. The choice is yours. The path is waiting, and it all begins with a single step. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the most powerful medicine in the world isn't found in a bottle. It's found in a simple daily walk.